The city hosted three major league teams, the Brooklyn Dodgers, the New York Giants, and the New York Yankees. In 1942, The Pride of the Yankees, a biopic of Lou Gehrig, was nominated for 10 Academy Awards. As Americans looked for an entertainment outlet to divert their minds away from the everyday issue of war, baseball, which 162-game season was stretched over 7 months, was the most popular distraction. Pollock's love for the game is not only cited through the Parsons quote and his childhood, but it is also important to note the connection he had with the game when he moved to the Hamptons just prior to his drip era. When not painting, he could be found playing baseball in the yard of fellow artist Wilfred Zogbaum. The artist and writer's celebrity baseball game began as a summer picnic on Sundays in the summer of 1948. The first games were played in Wilfred Zogbaum's front yard by artists such as Franz Klein, Willem de Kooning, Philip Pavia, Joan Mitchell, and Pollock. Inside the studio, Pollock literally became surrounded by the game. Pollock had the studio floor covered in 1953 during a renovation to winterize the barn. To save money, he used some leftover pieces of masonite board from the autographed baseball game, a children's board game printed by his brother, Sandy, in the 1940s and 50s. The inspiration for Sandy to get into a business involving baseball was born out of an upbringing encircled by athletics, an upbringing his younger brother, Jackson, also received, and may well have influenced his decisions in the creation of Guardians of the Secret. Family and sports may also have inclined an image in another painting from the 1943 Guggenheim show. Let's take a closer look at the aforementioned she-wolf. It is, again, as much as Pollock's work and much of the abstract expressionist work at that time, a depiction of mythological creatures and primitive imagery. As the title suggests, the most prevalent creature is the she-wolf, which is most famous for the tale of Romulus and Remus, the twins who are credited with the founding of the city of Rome, and that as orphans, they were suckled by the she-wolf. What makes this painting stand out, though, is all the other action around it. In a statement from the Museum of Modern Art where it is housed, that there is this urgency of human communication, and that you don't know what that communication is. The communication that Pollock may very well have been conveying is a tribute to his football-playing brother, Jay. Now, if I have convinced you to this point that the evidence that has been presented to you is possible proof that Jackson Pollock intentionally inserted sports figures into these paintings and athletics had a major influence on all of his work, then let's quickly discuss the original, organic idea that Ted Williams is floating around in Guardians of the Secret. Located inside the totemic pole on the left side of the canvas, its beginning is in the very bottom corner as a left-handed batter swings across his body and makes contact with a pitch. The figure seen is turning his body in motion toward the viewer while it makes contact with the ball. The hitter is painted faceless, a thin, vague black outline of a head. This is not uncommon in Pollock's work of that time. As a student of Benton's at the Art Students League, quote, he would avoid the more difficult parts of the body, leaving black circles for faces and lopping off hands altogether. The right leg is extended and the foot is planted as proper contact with the ball is made. The black shoe with laces also doubles as a fish, a symbol seen in other parts of the painting. A bat is not present. Instead, the ball springs off the upper body around the shoulder area where the bat would be, and then travels in a swooping upward motion north towards the center point of the painting, but remaining on the totemic pole. The right arm is represented on the figure with a thin black line that reveals itself at the correct point where a short-sleeved jersey would stop covering that part of the body from sight. The elbow is bent, and the forearm extends toward the shoulder area at the point of contact with the ball. The ball's travel is represented through a white tail that begins at the shoulder and ends when it hits a linear yellow line that juts out from a black border that surrounds the central rectangle. The linear yellow line is part of its own narrow rectangle connected to the black border. The white tail ends in a tiny circle of red and white, the colors and shape of a baseball. Some have suggested that that's pesky pole as well because of the yellow going up. Why not, huh? What the hell? The image could be a response by Pollock to one of his classmates at the Art Students League, Mervyn Jules. In 1940, Jules painted A Hit, which much more deliberately depicted a left-handed batter completing a big hit. There are also the added similarities of the same-sided motion and contact point. The batter share the same jersey, sock and shoe colors, and the ball is displayed at a moment in its travel. Pollock's image also has the ability to evoke thoughts. It could be a depiction of a particular baseball player, Ted Williams. Here is the plausible reasoning. As stated by Varndo, Guardians of the Secret was painted in the summer of 1943 and dealt with the search for a very dark and violent and mysterious content in the context of the Second World War. While Jules' painting was completed before Williams began his ascent to stardom, Pollock and the rest of the country could not avoid Williams' daily presence in the summer only 2 years later. Williams, at 22 years old, posted a .406 batting average in 1941. The number is now one of the legendary figures in the sport. No player since has hit 400. The next season, in 1942, Williams won the Triple Crown, topping the American League in batting average, home runs, and runs batted in. He is one of only 14 players in baseball history to achieve that, one of only 2 players to ever do it twice. In 1943, however, he was far from Fenway Park, Boston, and America, having enlisted in the United States Armed Forces to fight in World War II. Pollock's swinging baseball batter is not only producing an eerily similar swing to Williams, he is also in the same color scheme as a member of the Boston Red Sox. For viewers trying to connect it to a player on one of New York's 3 major league teams at the time, it is much less likely. The New York Yankees wore navy, white, and gray, the New York Giants wore orange, white, and black, and the Brooklyn Dodgers wore blue, white, and gray. John M. Williams, a contemporary Boston artist with no relation to Ted Williams, responded to a request from me to take a look at Guardians of the Secret and the theory represented there. His response was, quote, "What I picked out was the legs twisting, the rib cage, and possibly a cap tilted back on the space where a head might be. After reading your paper, I could follow the ball's path to the small white-red circle in the center top. Your thesis seems plausible that this figure represents a baseball player. Who knows whether or not it's Ted Williams." Jackson Pollock said, "Every good artist paints what he is." Well, if he was in fact as big a fan of baseball as Parsons said, then shouldn't he have depicted the sport at least once during his career? It seems like there would have been no better chance than here. You be the umpire. Thank you.